Hello everyone, this is Ender. This season, I decided to play Memento for my climb to Master 5, and I managed to win over 80% of my games along the way. Do take that statistic with a pinch of salt though, as I did get very lucky. I will be discussing the ratios and tech choices, as well as the theory behind them. I will also share my thoughts about how the deck performed in the current meta. Please note that this video is not intended to be a guide to Memento. If a guide is what you are looking for, there's a good one on masterduelmeta.com which can bring you up to speed. But now let's get into it. What you see here is the exact list I used the entire climb, with no changes being made along the way. I appreciate that this deck isn't especially original, but I would still like to go over the few things that might stand out. First, I cut Anguish to 2, because I frequently found myself opening hands with 2 or more cards I would need to normal summon, although this still happens fairly often. I prioritized Darkblade because of its ability to destroy back row going second. I also cut Fusion to 2, despite being useful for dodging targeting effects, and also being a strong extender. Fusion is very weak unless you have 2 or more names. On paper, that's usually what should happen, but I found myself with the card dead in my hand a few too many times for my liking. So I cut the third one, and I feel that solved my problem. Finally, I played the Heavy Goblin package. I wanted to maximize the deck's ability to play through hand traps, and these cards absolutely delivered. For non-engine, since Blue Eyes and Fiendsmith are both so resilient against standard hand traps, I decided to opt for cards which I felt would always be valuable. Really, there's not too much to say about it. The cards did what you'd expect them to do. With that said, now it's time for something a little bit more spicy. If you turn your attention to the extra deck, you'll see the reason that I decided to play this deck in the first place. Number 67, Paradise Smasher. You see, I was actually testing out Memento last season, and I stumbled upon a problem. The deck had a bad matchup into Striker Tempai and board breakers in general, both of which I found to be quite common. I decided to drop the deck afterward. But, about a week later, I was examining some of the top deck lists for Season 40 rating duels when I found a Memento deck playing number 67, and I realized that it was the perfect solution to that problem. About 91.9% perfect to be specific, according to Wikipedia. So, for all intents and purposes, number 67 is an Xyz monster that requires 3 level 5s to make, and imposes a lingering floodgate, preventing the activation of all enemy monster effects until the end of your opponent's turn. I admit, I do feel a bit bad about brutally floodgating people. But, since it's popular to callously play blind second decks containing exactly 0 hand traps, I felt it was reasonable for me to represent my strongest option. I'll put the combo I used to make number 67 on screen now. And while it plays, I would like to discuss the philosophy behind my choice of this specific deck, and why I'm not in any rush to take it to Master 1. You see, this Memento list is an answer to a dilemma I have been facing since the release of the Primite cards. Blue Eyes is not weak to the same lingering hand traps which were popular to counter the various Snake Eye and or Fiendsmith combo decks, forcing me to choose between countering one or the others. Why not play board breakers then? Unfortunately, many people are playing FTK or FTK adjacent decks, thereby mandating at least a few hand traps. I even tried to play Tempai Dragon with 21 standard non-lingering hand traps, but it turns out that both Blue Eyes and Fiendsmith can, at least somewhat often, set up a strong enough board to stop themselves from being OTK'd. All this to say, going second in the current meta feels like sitting down in front of a slot machine, and as a player who cares a lot about consistency, with the hope that skill and good play, whether on the part of me or my opponent, decides the match. This experience was very discouraging. So, exactly how well did this plan work? I kept a log of every game I played, all the way from the bottom of Diamond up to Master 5, and in the end, I went 25-6. A 92% win rate going first, and a 60% win rate going second. It is worth noting, I won the coin flip over 2/3 of the games I played, which definitely was a significant part of my success. In addition, I managed to FTK 5 people with Paradise Smasher. I am happy to report that the deck did exactly what I wanted it to do. But the whole experience was rather bittersweet. Due in part to the nature of the meta, and also due to the way I built the deck, I could not get even a single decent replay to show. As a matter of fact, in 10 of the games I played, my opponent didn't even wait until turn 2 to surrender. That doesn't even include the Smasher games. There were one-sided games on the other end too. I lost going second into stun, drawing 0 hand traps into Gimmick Puppet, and getting hit with Maxi and Fool Us with no counter. Of the remaining 10 or so games, I still didn't think any of them could stand up to the level of quality I would want in order to feature them in the video. But that's why I'm making my first commentated video instead, so could be worse. Overall, I would say that Memento is a strong archetype, and is, in my opinion, very pleasant to play. I didn't have many competitive games, but perhaps your luck will be different. With that said, I think Master 5 will have to suffice for me this season. I don't like to be negative, because I really do enjoy the game, but in this format, I felt it was unreasonably difficult to compete while playing an honest deck. And in the end, that's what I really want to do. Anyway, that's about it for the video. I hope you could take something useful away from it. And if you have any feedback for me, feel free to comment. I'm always looking to improve the quality of my product. And of course, if you have any questions about the deck, please don't hesitate to ask. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a pleasant day.